All right. Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive.
Yeah.
And today, we're going to be looking at something that I think a lot of people have been talking about,
For sure.
happiness at work.
Yeah.
And we've got a really interesting source that we're going to be kind of dissecting today. And it's pretty concise, pretty short,
Right.
but it's really good, I think, to kind of unpack some of the implications of it.
Yeah, I think, so much of the conversation around happiness at work can get very broad.
Yeah.
Like, just be happy. And it's like, well, how?
Right.
So I think having a concise source that we can really kind of like dig into is a great place to start.
Yeah, I think, what's really interesting about it to me is this idea that it kind of boils it down to this concept of feeling valued.
Uh-huh.
And how that seems to be maybe even more important
Right.
than just simply being employed.
Yeah.
Like just having a job, right?
More than a paycheck.
Right.
Exactly.
It's interesting.
Yeah. And I think that's something that resonates, with a lot of people. Like, I think a lot of us have had that experience where maybe we're making a good living, but we weren't really happy in our work. And so it's like, okay, there's got to be more to it than just the money.
Right, right. And, I mean, I've certainly felt that in my own life too, where, it's like, okay, well, I'm getting paid, but
Yeah.
am I really, fulfilled?
Yeah. Am I making a difference?
Right. Yeah. Is this really what I,
Yeah.
want to be doing,
Absolutely.
with my life?
And I think that's where this idea of feeling valued comes in.
Right.
Because when we feel valued, it means that our work has meaning.
Yeah.
It means that we're making a contribution, that people see us, they appreciate what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that can have a huge impact on our overall happiness.
Yeah. And what do you think are some of the ways that people can actually feel valued at work?
Well, I think it can manifest in different ways for different people.
Mm-hmm.
But some common examples might be, receiving recognition for your contributions.
Yeah.
Like having your manager or your colleagues acknowledge the good work that you're doing.
Right.
It could also be about having a voice in decisions that affect your work. Feeling like you're being listened to.
Right.
That your opinions matter.
Yeah.
And then also just feeling like you're a respected part of a team.
Right.
That you belong.
Yeah.
That you're contributing to something larger than yourself.
I remember this one time I was working on this really big project and I was putting in a lot of extra hours and it just felt like nobody even noticed, and I was starting to get like really kind of demoralized, like, why am I, even bothering?
Like, move it.
Yeah. And then finally my manager like took me aside and he was just like, hey,
Right.
I really appreciate
Yeah.
all the hard work you're putting in on this.
Right.
And it was like this like weight just lifted off my shoulders.
Absolutely.
It's just like, oh, okay.
Validation.
Yeah, someone sees me,
Yeah, someone recognizes my efforts.
And I think that's such a key part of it.
Totally.
It's like, it's not just about, getting a pat on the back or like, a bonus or something.
Right.
It's about feeling like you're actually making a difference and that your contributions are valued.
And that's what really feeds into that sense of intrinsic motivation.
Right.
Where you're not just doing it for the external rewards, but you're actually driven by a sense of purpose and meaning in your work.
I wonder, though, if for people who maybe work more independently, where maybe they don't have like a manager who's constantly,
Right.
giving them feedback or, they're not really part of like a big team.
Yeah.
Like, how does feeling value, like, how does that play out in those kinds of situations?
That's a really interesting question. And I think it probably looks a little bit different. Maybe for those individuals, it's more about having autonomy in their work.
Right.
Having the trust and the freedom to make their own decisions.
Yeah.
And knowing that their expertise is valued.
Right.
Even if they're not getting constant feedback or praise. It's more about that feeling of being trusted to do their best work.
Right. So it's still that same core principle of like, my contribution matters.
Exact.
But it's just expressed in a different way.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it would be interesting to hear from some of our listeners
Yeah.
about, what are some times where you felt really valued at work? What were those situations like?
Yeah. And what about times when you felt undervalued?
Right.
What were those situations like?
Right. Because I think by kind of reflecting on those experiences, we can start to see like, okay, what are those things that really make us feel like, okay, I'm in the right place.
Right.
And this is where I want to be.
And then the next question is, well, what can we do to create more of those positive experiences.
Yeah.
If feeling valued is so important, what are some concrete steps that both individuals and companies can take to foster that feeling?
Right. Yeah. And I think, for individuals, it might be something like, making sure that you're communicating your accomplishments clearly.
Right.
So that people are aware of,
yeah,
the good work that you're doing.
Right. And being proactive about seeking out opportunities for growth and development so that you're constantly learning and expanding your skills.
Right. And even just like, making sure to like acknowledge and appreciate the work of your colleagues.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just creating that positive feedback loop
Yeah.
where everyone feels appreciated and recognized.
Yeah. And what about for companies?
Yeah. For companies, it might be about creating a transparent performance evaluation system where people feel like they're being fairly assessed and that their contributions are being recognized. It could also be about fostering open communication channels so that people feel comfortable sharing their ideas and their concerns.
Right.
And then also implementing recognition programs that go beyond just monetary rewards.
Right, yeah.
It's about really making people feel like they're an integral part of the team.
Right.
And not just a replaceable cog in a machine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's such a great point to end on.
Yeah.
I think, it's so important to remember that feeling valued is this like two-way street. It's not just on the individual to, seek out validation.
Right.
It's also on companies to create a culture.
Yeah.
Where people feel like their contributions
absolutely
truly matter.
Yeah, it's a shared responsibility for sure.
So for everyone listening, as you go about your week, think about, what are some concrete steps that you can take to cultivate that sense of value, both for yourself and for those around you.
Absolutely.
And, maybe it's a conversation you can have with your colleagues or your manager, just to kind of start that dialogue and see what can be done to make your workplace a place where everyone feels like they're truly valued.
That's a great point.
So until next time.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Take care.
All right. See ya.